Just to make sure. There's always this 20-second delay where I'm freaking out if I missed a setting or something. Awesome, we're live. Hey everybody, this is a surprise announcement. As you can see, we are with the legend Heads or Tails, the legendary Kaggle Grandmaster, all of our heroes for storytelling, data analysis, and many more things. If I just keep talking about that, it'll take me an hour, which it did, because I've already interviewed. I've had the opportunity to interview him on Chai Time Data Science. I won't go into that. We're here to talk about the Kaggle Hidden Gems competition, which Martin will be telling us more about, and I'm also curious to ask a few questions around that. So I'll ask Martin to please share why are we doing a competition and why have you been doing the Hidden Gems for so long?
Thank you, Sanyam. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is very, very exciting. This is kind of the first time I'm doing an event like this, and it's just amazing, all around amazing. So the background is that I have been doing this weekly series of hidden gems for good 2 years now, and every week I pick 3 notebooks out of the large set of notebooks that are being published every day on Kaggle, every week on Kaggle, and because there's so many people on Kaggle, such a large community now, right? We're coming up to 10 million registered users, which is a lot, and not all the notebooks they get the attention that they deserve. Right? Not all the notebooks get the views, the kind of the feedback from the community, and the upvotes that their quality would deserve. And I'm trying my little bit to rectify that situation. So I'm going through the notebooks on Kaggle, and I'm picking 3 notebooks every week, which I think are underrated, which have one or several aspects of quality, like narration or great data visualizations, interesting insights, new angles, new ideas. And I'm trying to highlight those in my weekly posts, and I'm trying to get those notebooks and those authors the attention that they deserve. And I've been quite happy, I think, with the way it went. So I started it kind of pretty much out of a whim about 2 years ago, and I was publishing 1 episode every week without fail, which wasn't always easy, but it worked. So we're at 100 episodes today. Today, the 100th episode of Hidden Gem was published, which means 300 notebooks in total. And that's a very kind of interesting data set overall that I want people to look at and to study in this kind of meta take on Kaggle and the Kaggle community in this notebooks competition.
May I ask you? You're of course very knowledgeable, and I'm sure very busy. Why are you spending so much time just for the community? Like, I know it's a sillier job doing the podcast, but like the consistency really tends to be annoying over some time because you have to commit to it and then see it through. So what made you keep doing it for so long?
Well, I mean, I could ask the same question to you, right? Why do you keep doing the things that you're doing? And I'd be interested in your answer after my answer. So I found when I joined Kaggle, one of the things that immediately gave me a large boost in learning and in kind of discovering new things were the notebooks. And I got very involved in the notebooks, which, back in the time were called kernels. And I still like to call them kernels for old time's sake. And I really dove into the notebooks. I was quite successful there, became a grandmaster. And over time, I had the impression that there were a lot of people who were publishing great content, and a lot of those people got the recognition they deserved. They got the upvotes, they got the kind of recognition from the community, they got lots of engagement on their notebooks. But every now and then I would stumble across a notebook that was really a hidden gem, right? It was maybe attached to an obscure data set. It didn't get that much engagement, but the author had gone through a great deal of work to make this notebook really engaging, really fun, and really
I, I,
insightful.
I'm sorry. Could you please adjust your mic settings? I think it's a bit far away. It's
Can you
cutting
see
off.
it?
It's perfect now. Yeah.
Is it better now?
You were cutting off. Sorry.
I'm
You
sorry
were
for that.
talking. You were saying that you kept finding hidden gems literally while going through notebooks.
Yes, I kept finding these hidden gems, and the the way that I thought of it is that, I had been quite fortunate in the feedback and the engagement that I got from the community, um, for, whichever reasons, I don't know, and other people who were kind of producing great content, for other reasons, weren't that fortunate. So I thought that, there's a lot of great content hidden within, the Kaggle datasets or in other the Kaggle events, and it would have, I thought to myself, it would be great if this content would, if there was a way to bring that content to the forefront and to make it accessible to other people, because there's a lot that you can learn from it, right? And one of the great strengths of the Kaggle community is the very wide range of people from different backgrounds, very diverse set of community members that bring in new ideas and bringing new angles. And sometimes some of those might be hidden and you have to look for them. And I wanted to make it easier to look for them. And since I was quite successful and quite happy with the notebooks, so the notebooks were something that came relatively natural to me, I thought, the Kaggle community has given me so much. This is a way for me to give back to it, right? This is a way for me to kind of use the modest reputation that I have and use my expertise when it comes to, when it comes to notebook design and when it comes to visuals and everything, to highlight these hidden treasures and to make them available to the rest of the community, which kind of enriches the community overall and hopefully also gives some motivation to these authors of the gems to keep producing great content and keep coming back to Kaggle.
That's awesome. Just for the audience, Martin was the first Colonel's Grandmaster, as I understand, and there's also an absolutely legendary video that Kaggle made with him. I think it's pinned on his Twitter, so you can go check that out and learn more about his journey as well. Um, I, you were curious about my answer. I'll try to keep it short because I talk too much. But it's the same experience for me. Just general gratitude for how awesome the Kaggle community is. People like yourself, many other legends, share so much, and for me, it's like an obligation almost to share your journeys and make sure it reaches to new Kagglers like myself, so that we can copy your style and hopefully get to at least some level of where you are. I'll I'll ask one more question before requesting you to start sharing how we can get started. How are you finding these hidden gems? Is there a process around it? Because I'm sure it takes a lot of work. So how are you navigating the platform and or any process around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the process, I have to admit, is a little bit chaotic. Sometimes I just blindly go through interesting notebooks that show up on my feed, even. So I don't know how other people use this kind of this Kaggle news feed that comes up when you just go to the main page. But I use it for that. Sometimes I'm kind of falling down rabbit holes almost on Kaggle, or I'm looking for specific aspects of specific tools, like data visualization tools, or clustering or time series or something like this, and I'm looking for interesting notebooks that have been published on those topics, and then very often there are some gems in there, right? So there are the ones that kind of are at the top of the listing, which which are great and which are popular for a good reason. But then kind of further down, if you sort by votes or if you sort by the infamous hotness, then you find other content that's great, but has been relatively overlooked so far. And sometimes things come up on Twitter, sometimes on LinkedIn as well, that somebody says, "Hey, I published my first Kaggle notebook," or something like this, and it's really fun. And then I just bookmark that and then come back to it like a week or two later and see what has happened to that. And sometimes there's not much engagement because the people are not um, haven't been a part of the community for that long, and I try to give them a little boost and encouragement if I find that their content is great. I can be a little bit picky from time to time, so I do admit that I look at many more notebooks than the three that end up in the list every
I'm
week.
sure. I'm sure.
And yeah, and there are some there are some kind of relatively easy tweaks that you can make to almost any notebook to make it more interesting to the reader and more accessible, which in the end is a huge factor when it comes to, um, I think, the success of any notebook or of any report, right? So we talked about this a little bit in the past, I think, on your show as well. I think that being able to communicate your insights and your work and your process as a data scientist and a machine learning practitioner is a highly important but very underrated skill overall.
Yeah, totally. I still have a lot to learn, so I won't comment on that. But I'll request you to please start telling us what's the competition about and how can everyone get started.
Right. So let me share the post that started it all. So this is the page of the dataset itself. And a little bit of background here. This dataset contains all the past Hidden Gems episodes. So from episode number 1 all the way down to episode 100. So you can keep scrolling here and it keeps refreshing. And that's something that I had put together for the anniversary episode 50. So about a year ago, I decided that, okay, this seems to be interesting to people. So let's go with the usual Kaggle style and put everything into a data set so that people can have access to it. And in this data set, you
Could
find the
we please
date.
zoom in a bit?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Right. So in this data set, you find the date when the episode was published. So it's kind of a frequency of a week. And I publish it in the general forum. I publish it on Twitter as well. So there's a link for that. Then the link to the notebook itself, about, that's what it's all about. The name of the author, or the kind of the user ID of the, or username of the author on Kaggle, the title of the notebook. And then I write these short reviews that explain why I picked this notebook for the Hidden Gems series, and a couple of interesting aspects about it. So here it's about the comprehensive documentation. Others have some interactive maps that I want to highlight. Visualize transitions between generative images. So there's a large kind of range of what's interesting about specific notebooks. And then we have the name of the author, the way they put it on their profile, and their social links. So I have the Twitter link, the LinkedIn link, which can be put on the profile as well. And I just kind of read them manually and put them in every week. And some of the episodes have special notes, and this is a kind of a column that has that was more important at the beginning when there were these kind of community episodes every 10 episodes. So you can check this out as well, see if there's some residual information in there. But overall, those are the main features. So a post would look like this. Okay, this is today. I posted this in the morning, and this is for our anniversary episode, number 100. Right? There are the 3 notebooks, and then there's the short description, what I like about them. So here about this one, detailed exploratory analysis, and it's a very strong narration, clean data wrangling, which is also important that you clearly explain how you get the data into the shape that you're then presenting, and really, really great data visuals. And all of that is contained in this data set. And the competition is all about exploring this data set, right? So this is the post. And the post. So we have this little poster that we made for it, and it has all the important information. It's a competition that will run for 4 weeks from today until the beginning of May, and we have some great judges from the community, including yourself, and
I
lots.
wouldn't count myself on the on the great list.
Well, I would, and I'm a judge here, so you can. I count you in there. And we have Laura, we have Rob, we have Andrada, we have Paul, we have Abhishek, and then we have some special guests as well. And some of those special guests we can already reveal, and some of those special guests they might appear throughout the competition. So, what is it all about? What is a notebooks competition to begin with? It's different from your usual Kaggle competition. What usually happens on Kaggle is that you have your challenge is to predict something, train your model on a train set, and then predict on a test set. And then there's a leaderboard that ranks those predictions, and the kind of top finishers on the leaderboard get a prize in the end. And that's very exciting, right? That's one of the main reasons why we're here. And those machine learning competitions are great. This is a slightly different take on a competition. Here, what you do is you publish a notebook that explores and analyzes this data set. And this notebook ideally will kind of discover some interesting insights, will look at specific aspects, have some great data visuals, have some kind of strong narration and explanation. And on all those criteria, your work is then being evaluated by our panel of judges, who again are those really kind of stellar pillars of the community that graciously have agreed to help me with this task of judging the contributions. So you see that there are lots of names that you will recognize, and there are lots of names that have been an integral part of the community for a long time. And I'm really happy that they agreed to devote to kind of generously devote some of their time to this competition and to the judging itself. So in a short kind of in a nutshell, you write a notebook, you find some interesting insights on the hidden gems, on the authors, on the notebooks, or whichever aspect you like. You publish this notebook, you make it very interesting, engaging for the readers, and then you get judged by the panel, and your notebook gets a great score, and you win some cool prizes. This is what's happening here.
Awesome. I recognize all of the names on there, and I'm super stoked about the judge panel and what the audience will do as well.
Yes, and have you seen the little Easter egg? So one of our special guests, which I can already reveal today, is that we have the co-founder and the CEO of Kaggle itself, Mr. Anthony Goldblum, who will do part of the judging in this competition. So if you're doing really well, and if your notebooks gets really high marks from our judge panel, then Anthony himself will look at your notebook and will tell you how great you are.
I can't expect a higher higher uh, bar for anyone else to get praise from the CEO of Kaggle himself. So that's super exciting. Um, Awesome. So maybe if it's okay, we can give some ideas on how to get started. Maybe just through your starter notebook, or just broader ideas if you'd like.
Yes, we can absolutely do that. So there is a starter notebook, which I have to find, which is here. So it's
Again,
linked in the data set, and it's also linked. I'm sorry?
sorry, I was just going to remind the audience that they can find the discussions on this link. I've made a short URL, which is wandb.me/hidden-gems-comp. If you go there, you'll find the discussions inside the dataset, and on there you can find the thread to get started, more resources on getting started with weights and biases, which I just talk about, and you can find all this info on this one small link. So go there if you don't know where to find this info. Sorry, please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. It's very important information, since we want lots of people to participate, and we want all of them to to know how to get started. And one way to get started is to look at this starter notebook that I made, and I made this already for episode 50. So this is something that has been there for quite a while. Um, so this is not something that you should expect to put together within a week or so, or a day or so, maybe a week, I don't know. But it's been there for a while, and everything else in this competition will kind of hopefully gradually grow around it, and spiral off around it into all sorts of interesting directions. And one of the aspects that this notebook contains is a full table of all the hidden gems. And this notebook is written in R, and I know that R has become rarer and rarer on this platform, which is kind of more and more leaning towards machine learning. But when it comes, or more towards kind of deep learning with PyTorch and TensorFlow and so on, but when it comes to specifically data visualization and tabular data wrangling and analysis, then R has some very powerful tools, both from kind of the aspect of analyzing the data and also from the aspect of communicating the data. But then, of course, something you can do is to look at the way that I do things in R, and then translate that or parts of it to Python, which is absolutely an option for you kind of to learn. So here's a table that contains all the episodes, and I'm going to scroll very quickly, and it's not going to be pretty, but I want to end up here at volume 100. So it's up to date. It has the name of the kind of number of the episode, it has the date, and it has the link to the notebook itself and to the profile of the author on Kaggle. And this is kind of the input that you're working with, and already from that you can do some overview visuals, right? Excuse me. So you can look at the notebook titles, right? Which kind of words come up on those titles? How long are the titles? What are the shortest and the longest? So if you're using Kaggle, you might know that there is a kind of a limitation in terms of how short and how long a title of a notebook can be. It's between 5 and 50 characters. And we haven't really had a title that's only 5 characters in the Hidden Gems yet, but plenty that go up to 50. And this one, the very kind of cleverly named Afrikai, remains the shortest title so far, with 7 characters. Yeah, 7. And that's interesting, right? So people kind of they gravitate towards longer titles for their notebooks. But is that something that's useful? Is that maybe that contributes to those notebooks being overlooked because people think, okay, the titles are too long or something like this. That's an interesting aspect. And then you can look at the authors themselves, right? One interesting thing that came up is that, so on your Kaggle profile, you can link your socials like this, right? I have both my LinkedIn and my Twitter on there. And you can also link your GitHub if you like, and some other kind of personal web pages. And interestingly enough, only about half of the authors in our kind of hidden gems, they have their LinkedIn on there, or they have a LinkedIn in the first place, but more than 90% have their oh no I did it wrong again. Only half have their Twitter or have a Twitter account in the first place, and more than 90% have their LinkedIn, which gives you an interesting insight into how people use their Kaggle profile, possibly, and what kind of information they find important to put on there.
may I just throw a noob suggestion out there? Maybe you've thought about this, maybe the audience will, but I'd also be curious to see how are people who are really doing well on non-gem kernels, so whose kernels have high upvotes, and do they have a different split? I'd be curious to check out. Maybe that's why it's a hidden gem. Maybe they should be sharing on Twitter or some other platform.
Yeah, that maybe, yeah, maybe it's more likely general that kind of notebooks that are getting a lot of engagement, the authors have Twitter accounts and they're sharing their work on
Yeah.
Twitter. That's entirely possible. And these kind of ideas. So I'm always a big advocate in, when you're putting a visual like this, to document your insights from it. And this is what I'm doing consistently in the starter notebook. And I wrote down after 50 episodes the insights that I found. And then I also wrote down after 100 episodes. And then, this is interesting for this competition, I'm I always include some suggestions for further analysis and further steps. And that includes some of the ideas that we just kind of talked about, or kind of includes, are there common features among the Twitter users? And what's the percentage of LinkedIn users among them? How do they compare? Which is kind of what we just touched on. How do they compare to the Kaggle community as a whole? And maybe there's a difference by the tiers, like expert and master and grandmaster. So all the kind of visuals that I have in this notebook, they have these suggestions for further analysis attached to them, which I think are a kind of a great stepping stone for getting started with your own analysis. And then I can guarantee you that if you're starting to look at the data, if you start to follow these hints and ideas, then you'll get more ideas of your own, and kind of you get more thoughts about which aspects to follow and which aspects to study more deeply. And this will then determine the direction of your analysis. And some of the authors they are featured more than once in my Hidden Gems series, which I think it's fine, because they have put out a lot of content. And if even after multiple mentions their other notebooks are still underrated, then I think those other notebooks deserve mention as well. And again, there's some ideas how you can follow this up. And then ultimately there are my reviews. So the brief explanations that I put together as to why I'm picking this notebook for the Hidden Gems. And you see that some certain kind of words occur very frequently in my reviews. Like, I'm a big fan of visuals and of exploration. Data and Kaggle are, of course, there. Narration is important to me. And I think that kind of appears as well. A very clean analysis is something that's useful, structured, and exploration, interpretation. So those shouldn't be too surprising that those are the names that I'm bringing up in my reviews when I'm talking about why I included these notebooks. And then, after we looked at the data set itself, there's a very interesting connection to the larger body of data that exists on Kaggle, on the contributions that Kagglers are making. And this is the meta Kaggle data set. And maybe we can have a little dialogue about it. Tell me, Sanyam, what do you know about meta Kaggle?
I know it's used to check for a lot of flaggy activity as well. So legends use it for that. But I know you can do a lot of interesting stuff there. So I know people in the chai competition figured out um, how many grandmasters I've interviewed on the podcast using Meta Kaggle. You can do different stuff like figure out how active people are. So it's really all the info on different Kagglers you can find.
Yes, and it's really fantastic, and it's really comprehensive. So Kaggle is kind of true to its form here as a great platform for data scientists and machine learning practitioners. Collects all the data on what we all do on the platform, right? Data on competitions, data on which data sets are published, on forum activity, on the notebooks themselves, which which warms my heart that they're still called kernels here, which is great, and and on the users, right? On all of us on this platform, what our progression was through the tiers and what our achievements are, right? So it's also a history of all of our journey here on Kaggle, which is great. And this meta Kaggle dataset now allows us to widen and deepen our analysis of the gems considerably. So the gem dataset itself, it has these 300 notebooks, and it already has quite a lot of interesting insights. You can kind of think of it as like a swimming pool that's next to the ocean, right? So you can do some great stuff in there. You can you can do some swimming techniques, and you can practice this and that, and then MetaKaggle kind of opens up the pool into the ocean itself, and you can go anywhere. You can kind of explore the different fish that live in the ocean. Maybe there's a coral reef or so. That's very exciting. So it's a very healthy and well-populated ocean, is what I'm saying, and and it allows you to kind of go anywhere with your analysis, really. And this is something that I've touched on in my notebook, wherever it is, here. So we can now enrich those gems with all the information from MetaKaggle. So we can look at the authors. We can look at this users CSV file, which we had. No, it's one of the two that's not shown by default, which is here, right? And we can pull that in to get the user tiers of the authors, right? So Kaggle is arranged from novice to grandmaster, and then we have a special category for the Kaggle team itself. And we can see how those contributed over time through the hidden gems. And I'm quite happy with the way that this plot looks like, right? We have more than 10% contributions from novices, which is something that I'm aiming for, is to kind of highlight people who might just be making their first steps into Kaggle and already contributing something great. And not overweigh the masters and the grandmasters, but also not discount their hidden contributions or discard their hidden contributions if they occur. And the users dataset also includes the date at which somebody joined Kaggle. So we can plot that as well. And we can see that Kaggle has seen a lot of growth over the last couple of years. And we see that the single largest cohort of gem authors, they joined in 2020, right? So they are pretty recent. And all that information you can get by joining onto MetaKaggle. And then there's some other suggestions for further analysis. You can look at the notebook metrics themselves, right? So there is a table called kernel languages that, unsurprisingly, tells you about the programming languages that certain kernels were using. And here is a kind of breakdown between Python and R that is 75% and 25%. And I think this is a larger R percentage than in the overall Kaggle
I was
environment.
going to say that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of your bias towards R.
I might be. I'm very open about my bias. I like R. But then also, when it comes to data presentation and data visualization, R still has an edge in many aspects. And I think this is the way that kind of people are using it. And this is the way that I really want more people who have fun working with R to join the Kaggle community and to, start sharing their R skills with us, and show us what the kind of the most recent developments are, and show us what R can do for interesting data sets and for interesting questions. So I'm absolutely supporting that. And I don't dislike Python. I like Python. I think it's a great language, and I'm using both. So personally, I'm using both R and Python, and I think it's I think it's always a good thing not to limit yourself too narrowly to just one thing. And, and maybe it doesn't have to be Python and R. It could be, Python and Rust, or R and Julia, or, there are a lot of things out there that could be interesting and that can give you new ideas and fresh ideas about your favorite programming language itself. So, don't be too narrow. And yeah, we can look also at the metals. So this is now about the notebooks, which is this kernels CSV that we just talked about. And we can look at the metals. This information is in meta Kaggle. The views and the votes is in meta Kaggle as well as the creation date and the number of comments that the notebook received. And, there's a lot of information there that could tell us something maybe about what makes a jam, and could even allow some small predictive model that somebody could build, to help me find and explore and pick future jams. So this might be a potential topic for a notebook, right? And then you can go as meta as you like, really, because now the meta Kaggle also contains this data set called forum topics, and forum topics contains the hidden gems posts, right? So this post, for instance, is contained in forum topics. So within the hidden gems dataset, we now have the hidden gems, or within the hidden gems analysis, we now have the data about the gems, right? So you see, it gets a little kind of Inception-like, mind-bendy, but you can now see the engagements that the hidden gems posts got over time. So all the 100 posts are on here, almost all of them, from the first one through the time through today. And you can study at what kind of circumstances might bring more engagement to a post, and what could lead to a post getting less engagement, because essentially the posts always have the same structure. It's 3 notebooks that I'm publishing, and they kind of have the reviews attached to them, and the structure itself doesn't really change that much. And that is it, really. So this, I really intend this to be a kind of a jumping board, a starting point for lots of people to kind of to look through, to get ideas about what they can do with this data set, and what they can do when they combine this data set with meta Kaggle, and just go crazy, go wild, explore what you find interesting, and share your explorations with us, and then maybe win a prize.
Do you have any general suggestions of things people could start off? I know it's a hard question, because I was trying to think. Looking back, I was trying to think of similar things, and I was trying to host a chai competition, and I just didn't have ideas. And Cactus, of course, blew me away with the analysis. But maybe you have any suggestions for people to look into?
Well, like I said, there are suggestions, there are ideas throughout this notebook, right? So kernel's dataset contains a date that the medal was awarded. So you could be comparing that date to the date at which the Hidden Gems episode was published, and then see whether whether this episode being published had an impact, and how much of an impact it might have on the vote count, and on the medals, on the engagement in general that the notebook got. Then another thing is like what distinguishes the Python and the R notebooks, right? Notebooks have tags attached to them. They you maybe can get the number of visuals or something like this. Are there any, other than the language itself, are there any kind of substantial, significant differences? And then I also have some kind of suggestions and ideas. Ultimately, I want you to just surprise us, right? Pick an aspect of the gems that interest you, and just follow it down that rabbit hole, and surprises with great insights and interesting and creative presentations. But the style of the hidden gems change over time.
Yeah,
This is a very meta thing here. How many gems authors interacted with my posts about them, right? This is, no judgment either way. As a gems author, you can do whatever you like, but it would
yeah,
be interesting to see, how many people kind of came back and kind of commented in the post something. Are there maybe distinct categories of gems, right? Do they cluster around certain aspects that I'm particularly interested in? I actually don't know the answer to that. I
mm,
have a very intuitive approach to them. And do you want to explore all the links to MetaKaggle? Yeah, just do it. Do you
yeah,
maybe want to build an NLP bot that helps me write my reviews? Sure. If you share it with me afterwards, things could get much simpler for me. And maybe you could even create a model to predict future gems.
yeah,
And kind of we talked a little bit about this, not the two of us, but within the comments of the gems, somebody occasionally would bring up, maybe you could just train a machine learning model to find those gems, and you don't have to do it yourself. And I want it to be even easier for me. I want you, the participants, to train such a model so that
mm,
I don't have to do it myself. But yeah, any of these aspects, any of these approaches are possible, and anything beyond. But here's some ideas. Here's some suggestions for you to get started, and you can take them or leave them, and just surprise us.
let's automate heads or tails, and let's create a bot that finds gems every week. You can run it weekly on a Kaggle kernel. uh, Awesome. I don't see any questions. People are just joining in and they're quite excited about the competition. That's what the chat's been saying. Again, as a reminder to everyone, wandb.me/ hidden hyphen gems hyphen comp is where you want to go to find all of these details. Um, Anything else you want to highlight, Martin, before I give an intro to weights and biases?
Tell us about weights and biases.
Awesome. Let me share my screen and point everyone to the discussion post
Mhm.
and go from there. So while you were giving the demo, I was on the Scratchpad and trying to put something together for how people can get started. So just on a very 2 minute note, you can pip install the WandDB API, and you can import it as a Python framework. And from there, you can do two things if you're running your code interactively. You could either log in via the prompt that shows up, or Kaggle has this neat secret feature, which I can show, and I can later delete this value. I don't have to because it's already hidden, so that's nice. But you can add your secrets here, where I can add in my API and import it like so, which means whatever logging I do here will go to my dashboard. So why would you want to do this in the first place? I'll show some examples, but broadly speaking, weights and biases is a tool designed to make your life easier as a machine learning practitioner, and it goes beyond that as well. As you can see, this is an analysis competition, and I'll show some really nice examples, not by me, people much smarter than me. Some of them are on the judging panel that have created really nice analysis, so we also allow that. And let me show the examples and maybe prove to you why this can be helpful. So, as part of this competition, we're also sponsoring a track. You can find the details in Martin's post, but I'll show some examples now. And Dada, who is also on the judging panel, created this really nice H&M notebook. Let me post the link to that in the YouTube chat so everyone can also go check it out. Make sure to check out this kernel. It's really one of my recent favorites. But with Kaggle kernels, you can of course do a really good job at storytelling. I think there's some scope of creating a polished dashboard as well, where you just give the analyses or just the info upfront. That's what I think. And Dada's dashboard kind of fills in here. So as you can see, she's done all of these analysis, and just by looking at this dashboard, I can see that how many orders are going through for that competition, how many customer IDs are there. I can scroll down and see some custom charts. So, like I said, it's to me in some ways data analysis on steroids, because now I have this detailed info, which is quite interactive. So I can go in there, play around with all of these values, rearrange these graphs, add panels. So if like me, you don't like scrolling through documentation, you can just quite easily click through here, create all of these plots, fix the range instead of really running into 50 different errors. So the long story short version is, as you create your analysis, you can also create a nice dashboard which just gives the information in one quick scroll. That's how weights and biases can help in this competition. Of course, if you want to track your experiments and if you train any NLP models, you can do that as well. You can track all of those. But for here, I think this is my bias, a bias that I'm bringing, but I believe people could track in their experiments and also showcase a lot of analysis like so in the dashboard. So you can find these links in the getting started thread I've created inside of the discussions post. I think that's all I wanted to give as a very very quick introduction to the platform.
Yes, thank you. And of course, if you're using weights and biases in your notebook, then there are special prizes for you to win. Would you like to share those prizes,
Yes,
Sanyam?
I was waiting for your post. I think it'll be announced over the next few days how these will be distributed. But the prize pool, and again, it's up to Martin, so he'll tell us how those are distributed. You could win up to $1,000 in GPU credits, and also I think five weights and biases swag pieces. Uh, Again, Martin will decide the rules, but that is the prize pool that all of you can win. So you can train more models. You can weigh some weights and biases swag if you'd like that. Yeah.
Yes, we'll distribute it according to participation. So we're still going to see what the participation were. But what we're thinking of is to have three prizes for 500, 300, and $200 of credits for the first, second, and third notebook in this category. So this is if you're using weights and biases tools in your notebook, you are eligible for this prize, and you can get a very nice boost on your heavy model training with top GPUs. And then the other kind of, we have different price ranking categories here, so let's cover those as well. In this competition, we're not, so everybody's going to be ranked, or everybody's going to be judged in the same way, and everybody will get points in the same way. But then for the prizes, the ranking will be done in different categories, right? One of the category will include the Kaggle tiers novice to expert, and another one will include the tiers master to grandmaster. So the master and grandmaster Kagglers, they are competing for in one category, and the novices and the contributors and the experts, they are contributing in another category. And in addition to that, we will also have a category for a newcomer prizes for people who want to join the platform and who are already here and who haven't written a notebook yet and who want to write their very first Kaggle notebook. This is for you. This is the chance for you to win a newcomer prize and to show your outstanding skills and your outstanding contributions to the community. And we really, really hope that you'll do this and that you'll share your insights and your creativity with us. So those are the three categories, and then we have the fourth category, which is the weights and biases prize, which is for the best notebooks that make use of the weights and biases integration. And all of those four, they will be awarded at the end of the competition. So after 4 weeks, we'll do the judging and we'll award the prizes accordingly. And in addition to that, we also have a weekly prize. So we're going to run for 4 weeks, and every 4 weeks, every Tuesday, we will be awarding one prize to one outstanding notebook of the week. So you don't have to wait if you're very kind of impatient person and you're putting out a great notebook. You don't have to wait until the very end to be rewarded for that. You can already win a notebook of the week within the Hidden Gems competition. And then Sanyam already touched on it. What can you win? So we have the GPU credits for the fantastic Jarvis Lab AI platform, which are sponsored by Weights and Biases for this category four, for the notebooks with Weights and Biases integration. And then for the other categories, we have swag. And the many kind of Kaggle aficionados, I think, will agree that swag is really, that's where it's at, right? Those are the most those are the prices that everybody wants, really. So kind of if you're thinking about the Grandmaster hoodies, or about a Kaggle mug, which is there, you might be able to see it on the shelf.
I can
These kind
spot
of
it.
things,
I was able to spot it.
yeah, yeah. These kind of things is really what many people that I've met over the years in Kaggle, this is what they're really interested in, right? Or a Kaggle sticker or something like this, or a T-shirt, right? There are lots of cool swag prizes out there, and we have swag sponsored generously by Kaggle, and also sponsored generously by Weights and Biases. And you can win a swag prize from this prize pool, which is great. There are some kind of tangible prizes that you can win, but then of course you can also win the recognition of the community. And I'm sure that we'll be doing some kind of interviews or some highlights of the winners in some form or shape after the competition. So if you want to make a name within the Kaggle community, and if you want to show us all the great stuff that you can build, this is the time for you as well.
Yeah, I've been as I've been telling you offline as well. I've been really excited about this. I was trying to help Martin while on the road, so I was maybe a bit slow at times, but we both, and I'm sure many other people who've been making this happen have been really excited. And I think that the prizes just speak to that, because this is a community effort by someone who wants to give back to the community, and the community is coming together to help more people in the community to join the Kaggle community. So there's this inception happening. But I'm really excited to learn more from people as they go about this, and yeah, really looking forward to everyone's contributions.
Yeah, me too. I'm absolutely stoked to see what you will all build, and what you all will contribute, and what your ideas are. And I'm sure there are tons of aspects of the hidden gems and of the connection to MetaKaggle, or any other connections that I haven't thought of yet. And I'm really, really curious what all of you will discover.
Awesome. Any final words before we wrap up?
Just surprise us.
Have some.
Join the competition, and just surprise us, and blow us away with your creativity, with your insights, and with your passion for data science.
Data scientists have proven chai improves data analysis skills by 500%. Don't quote me on that. But remember to have chai before before creating your notebooks. And good luck, everyone. And thank you again, Martin, for joining us for the kickoff live stream. And thanks for everyone who's watching this live or watching the recap.
Thank you for all your help, Sanyam. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing.